This is something I was thinking about yesterday when I was just looking at the way the Cowboys played in Buffalo. And it was a wake-up call in a lot of ways, I think, for the Cowboys in terms of how far removed they still are from San Francisco and from some of these tough teams and from some of these more physical football teams that you're going to run into down the stretch here in January. So, 3 guys that can change those fortunes for you. They've got to step up. They got to play better. Number 1, if there's one guy on offense, Sean, and I'm not talking about like just, well, Dak's got to play like an MVP. I'm talking about the guys who you need them to play better than they are. You need to get the most out of them. If there's one guy on offense for you, who would that be?
Are we even including, like, can Michael Gallup even be in a conversation?
He's somebody that I think you could consider.
It's not Lamb. It's not Cooks. It's not Ferguson. I think Pollard has been playing better. Someone on the Terrence Steele.
Terrence Steele.
Yeah.
That's who I came up with. Now here's the thing. The first half of the season, Terrence Steele looked like the rookie year again. Where when we saw him his rookie year, we all remember it looked like he wasn't even a professional football player. And I don't mean that to be offensive. It's just genuinely he was not very good his rookie year. And that's what's been so impressive about the way that he stepped up and played since then.
And last year we were happy. We were giving the Cowboys credit for letting La'el Collins go to Cincinnati. We're giving them credit for it. PFF grade for Terrence Steele this year. I know you don't like their website. What do you think it is?
54.
52.4.
Yeah.
That's bad.
No, it's not very, and he's not been very. The first half of the year, he looked like the rookie season. The second half, since the bye week, he's found it a few times. Now, Mike McCarthy's told us, hey, he's coming back from injury. That's a big part of that. It's still the rehab period, everything else. He has looked better in this second half. It's just that it's not been consistent. The problem is that some weeks he looks similar to the guy we saw in the first half of the season. Some weeks it's, oh, there he is. There's 2021 Steele. There's 2022 Terrence Steele again. So we've seen the flashes, but it's got to become the standard again. So he needs to be more consistent. If you can get consistency out of Terrence Steele, that would go a long way to making the offense, make you feel like the offense is prepared to go up against any physical defense or do anything else. Because if he's consistent, that means the pass protection's more consistent. That means that he's working with Zach Martin in the run game, that they're having success, and that they're clearing holes for Tony Pollard. Because Terrence Steele is one of the most important players on the offense when it comes to making sure that the run game is working efficiently. The defensive side of the ball. You could stand to have Jaron Kearse step up and play better than he has recently. You could stand to have,
By the way, did you look into that yesterday with his address? Wanye Thomas getting involved?
It was very weird. Somebody had, I guess, posted Jaron Kearse's address after someone had complained about how he had played. Somebody was like, well, here he is, and threw up the address. And Wanye Thomas was not thrilled with that.
Come on, man. I should throw out this loser's social media account who posted his address.
You should.
You're a freaking loser. I think you've probably been blocked and thrown off of there, so I can't find the account. But I'll search for it right now.
Yeah, you run that down. Now, Jaron Kearse is somebody who does need to play better. The safeties in general need to play better. You can find some different areas. One of the big guys that stands out here that they need to play better is Damone Clark. And I think that the Cowboys never anticipated having Clark play as much of a role as he's already played this year. They had no intention, I don't think, of him playing last year. They had to out of necessity. Now that he's here this year, I think they wanted to work him in a little bit more. Out of necessity due to...
You mean Johnny Bananas?
Johnny Bananas is who?
That's Damone Clark.
Why is he Johnny Bananas?
That's his new nickname.
Okay.
Those who know... IYK...
If you know, you know.
IYK. Tweet me. I got a couple tweets. I was very proud of the Tolos, the MTV reality show reference.
I'll have to Google it. But because of the season-ending injury to Leighton Vander Esch, potentially career-ending injury, and because of the season-ending injury to DeMar Van Overshown before the season began, the Cowboys' intention was for Leighton Vander Esch and DeMar Van Overshown to be like the primary guys that they were using. Maybe not at the beginning of the season, Overshown, but eventually that was the hope, is that they'd be able to work in that. Definitely splitting time with Clark. Now it's coming to the point where Damone Clark can't come off the field. He's got to be on there 100% of the time because he's the only true linebacker they have. They don't really have anybody else. They've got Rashawn Evans that they signed away, but in terms of like legitimate guys that they think can contribute, it's just been Clark. So out of necessity, he has to be on the field all the time.
Here's the clip I keep referencing. This is Johnny Bananas. So they were doing this That's him in the blue shirt.
Oh, and he's getting carried.
Getting carried,
that makes
picked up,
sense.
and thrown into a.
I'm surprised Ryan didn't have it on the fan game because everything else instantly. I'm surprised
Carter's
he didn't
back
have.
here now. That's why.
Oh, okay, it's Carter. That does make sense. He's worried about his college football prep email that he's sending to everybody. But Damone Clark has played good football at times. It's sort of like the same thing with Terrence Steele. He's played well at times. It's just not been nearly consistent enough. If you got more consistent play out of Damone Clark, then you would feel better about that linebacker core being as thin as it is. You wouldn't have to feel like, well, we've got to lean on these safety hybrids. We got to lean on J-Ron Curse. We got to lean on, Marquise Bell. We need Wanye Thomas to play the slot, the safety, and linebacker. If Damone Clark could find that consistency, that'd be great. It may not be totally fair to expect that of him, but it's the reality of what you need. The Cowboys need him to be it, whether that's fair
Why
or
don't we
not.
just pick up some bodies, man?
I mean, they've done it with Rashaan Evans, and they've signed guys to the practice squad.
Man.
They tried with Darius Leonard or Shaq Leonard.
Because Broadus answered to Tolo yesterday. He said, why can't we ever stop the run? And he said, Dan Quinn is trying to make up for injuries by having safeties play linebacker. You're getting outweighed and outmatched by 100 pounds in these run-blocking matchups.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it is that they can't get off blocks. Like Marquise Bell, no matter how impressive he is, which Eric Wood came on with us and told us that was the guy that really impressed him. Was the Bills analyst, the former Bills center, he said, watching tape of the Cowboys, Marquise Bell is really, really impressive, but he's also 215 pounds.
Yeah.
You get a blocker on him, it's really tough for him to get off that block. The last guy that needs to really step up down the stretch, and again, it may not be completely fair, but necessity calls for it. And you know what? I'm going to say it's not even that it's not completely fair. It is totally fair to expect that he steps up and is a big-time contributor, regardless of what Jerry told us yesterday. It's Mazi Smith. And it can be really tough to grade Mazi Smith because the position he plays doesn't frequently show up in the box score. It's a lot of what he does is eating up blockers and clearing space for the linebackers, some of those undersized linebackers. You're not worried about Marquise Bell getting blocked up and the size difference as long as somebody like Mazi Smith is doing his job and taking the blocker away from him. They need him to be more consistent. He had incrementally progressed just very slightly the first several weeks of the season. Now it's kind of stagnant. It's flat. And you're not seeing much progression from Mazi Smith anymore. He's got to get off the ball faster. He is consistently the last guy getting out of his stance. You know, he is like the polar opposite of a Lane Johnson. It's the ball snapped, and he still looks like he's sitting there waiting for the ball to go. It's evident. You can see if you hit play and pause and just kind of like pause it in the immediate aftermath of the snap, you'll see offensive linemen out of their snaps, or out of their stance, 3 defensive linemen lunging forward, and Mazi hand down looking like he's frozen in time. Live speed, it doesn't look as obvious, but if you slow it down, he is very slow off the ball.
So how different is that from his Michigan tape?
It's what you saw at Michigan. Michigan, a lot of times you do see those guys sometimes get slow off the ball, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, it's an instincts thing. It's not totally clear, but he was slow off the ball at times. Like, he's just such a freak. He's such an incredible athlete that it's not something that had hampered him as much at Michigan, I don't think. And even still at times in the NFL, he's able to counteract it a little bit. But when he gets off the ball on time, he is incredibly difficult for people to block right now. Like, he eats guys up, and he will like penetrate really effectively as long as he's able to get off in time and get into the offensive lineman's chest. That's the biggest thing for him. So I think if you get those 3 guys playing better down the stretch, you're talking about more consistency.